She sounds nice.
We're on Daf Mem Ches on the
Yeah.
base,
Yeah,
and
I
another
got it.
suffix of Rav Papa.
Right.
Rav Papa is the main persona of this sugya. Now, Rav Papa here on Daf Mem Ches on the base is going back to the avoda of the Ketores of Yoma Kippurim, and the Kohen Gadol takes the machta, and in the machta he has gecholim, which he filled up this pan from the mizbeach for the purpose of the Ketores. And this is a reference to an earlier Mishnah on Daf Mem Gimel, that after the par of the Kohen Gadol is shechted on Yom Kippurim and he was makabel adam, then he takes a machta, which is made of gold, and it has a mid of shlosha kavim. He goes up to the Rosh HaMizbeach, and then with this machta, this golden pan, he's mefanes hagecholim lekan lekan. He moves the gecholim from on the Mizbeach in this way and that way, and then chote b'machta gecholim. He digs the pan into the gecholim. He goes down. He puts the machta with hot, burning hot gecholim on the ritzvah hazorah. If I'm not mistaken, on the Rovid Aravi, he doesn't say that here. And then he's going to pick up this machta after he has filled up his chafina of ketores and run with a klishares called a kaf in one hand. I believe it's in the left hand, the machta in the right hand. He's going to run into the Kodesh Kadosh. What happens if this machshava that we discussed before of chutz lizmano took place not as it did in the earlier suffix of Rav Papa, where at the time of the chafina itself, he had in mind to do the chafina for tomorrow's haktorah, but rather the machta, the chitui of the machta. At that moment, he had in mind that he would be machta the ketores tomorrow. Now, obviously, the chitui of the machta is one step removed from the chafinas haktoras. In fact, his contact here, his avod is only in the gecholim. I mean, he needs the gecholim, otherwise he can't burn the ketores. But it's not really an avoda. It's more of a preliminary stage. So Mahu, here's what Rav Papa wants to know. Is there a psul in the ketores? Why? Machshire mitzvah kim mitzvah damu o lo. This preliminary stage, which is going to prepare the kiyum for the kiyum mitzvah, so that he gets the gecholim and later he can be maktir the ketores on these gecholim, is that like the mitzvah itself? And therefore, even in the case of chatiyas gecholim, which sets up the kiyum mitzvah, it has the status of the mitzvah, as if it's the kickoff, it's part of the Aktores, and therefore, just like in the Aktorah of the Ketores, we say that there's a Machshava Poseles, so too at the time of the Chitoy HaGecholim, there is a Machshava Poseles. So that means that if at the time of the Chatiyah you had a Machshavas Psul, I'm going to do the Aktorah tomorrow, it's as if at the moment of Aktorah itself, he had that Machshavas Psul, and therefore the Ketores becomes possible. Although, what should we say? No, the Machshir mitzvah is not like the mitzvah itself. So the Chatiyas HaGecholim is not considered like the Aktorah itself. There's a Machshava Poseles at the time of the Aktorah, but not at the time of the Chatiyah. Take it when he leaves it again as an unanswered question. Now, this is all based on the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, "Not al esamachto biyamino, vesakaf bismola." He is holding the machta in his right hand. Otherwise, it's very hard to carry these gechom in his left hand if he's a righty. And the kaf, which is relatively light, it's a spoonful of ketores, that's in his left hand. Now, at this point, boy, we're going to enter into the world of Zvachim. We're going to try to find a parallel to the Machta and the Kaf, right hand, left hand. Now, let's make it clear. Avoda Sakarma requires the right hand. It's got to be biyad yamin. So that would include, for example, the shkita. And the pasuk says in the parsha of Mitzorah, "Vayikru Yidal v'tavala kohenes etzba'o hayimanis," and it means whenever the kohen is involved, he should be involved in his right hand, biyad yamin. And there's a question here in the footnote. He wants to know, Kishayad Yamino Chola, V'lachein tzarich laholif biyad small. He says if he can't do the avoda with his right hand, it's out of commission, and he has to do it with his left hand. And Rav Sheshes now wants to know about the status of holacha. So holacha means he did the shechita with his right hand. He was makabel adam, holding a mizrak in his right hand, and now he has to transport the dam up the ramp, up the kevesh, and onto the marocha. So that act of holacha must be performed with the right hand. And we're going to soon see that from the Ketores we have a precedent for using his left hand, because when he's bringing the Ketores up to the Kodesh Kodashim, he's holding the Ketores in his left hand. In any event, let's read the Gemara. Boy Rav Sheshes. Olacha. After the Kohen receives the dam from the Shkita, and he needs to transport the dam onto the Mizbeach in order to do the Zrika with his right hand. So he did the Shkita and the Kabbalah with his right hand, and he's going to do the Zrika with his right hand, but in between he needs holacha, because the Zrika is on the Mizbeach. The Shkita was on the Ritzvah of the Azar, so he's got to up the Mizbeach, and that process is called holacha. Must he do the holacha with his right hand? Biyad small, mahu. What would be the din if he was carrying the dam up the kevesh to the Rosh HaMizbeach in his left hand? Shall we say that, look, it doesn't say explicitly in the Torah that the Kohen has to be molech the dam. In a sense, we will find some sort of a diuk in the pasuk to derive holachas adam, but it's not an explicit avodah. So then, although we always want him to use the right hand, if he used the left hand, it's not catastrophic. We're not going to pass the carbon because he was molech the dam with his left hand. Or shall I say no? It's possible. It's ma'akid. And even b'di'evet, post facto, he used his left hand for the halacha, the carbon is possible. Just like it would be possible if it was done, if any of the other three avodas were done with the left hand. Amalei Rav Sheshes, when this question was asked to Rav Sheshes, he responded to Nisua. Let's learn it from our Mishnah. Mishnah says, not al samachta b'yad yamino, besakaf b'yad smola. You see that the Kohen, when he's doing a halacha of the Ketores, he's carrying the Ketores in his left hand. Let's derive from this that in all kachim, in any carbon, if he's molech the dam with his left hand, it's kosher. Now the Gemara is wondering why Rav Sheshes, in responding to this question, he had to stretch his arm out to the case of Machta and Ketores of Yoma Kippurim, Nifshal Luhu. Why doesn't he just quote an explicit Mishnah in Masechet Tamid? And that Mishnah addresses exactly this question as to whether Lochas Adam B'yad Small is Kshera. Now, this Mishnah in Talmud goes through the entire Seder, the sequence of Holachas Evrei Karban Talmud. The Kohen, that particular Kohen who won the lottery for that day, he takes the Talmud up the Kevesh to the top of the Mizbeach, and he's got the Rosh and the Regel on the right side, meaning the Rosh is only one Rosh, but there's two Raglaim, so he's got the Regel Yimid, and this is what he's carrying of the Talmud, and he receives it from the person, that Kohen, who was in charge of dismembering the body of the animal after the Shechita, and he's called the Menateach. So now he receives these two parts of the body of the Talmud from the Menateach. So he's got the Rosh HaTalmud Biyad Yamid, the Regel, the right leg of the Tleh, he has Biyad Small. So you see clearly from this Mishnah, you don't have to come up with Ketores. Forget about Ketores. Let's just talk about Zvachim. We have a Mishnah that addresses the case of Holochas Evrei Karban HaTalmud. And it says that the Kohen is carrying the regel of the right side of the animal. Biyad Small, he's carrying it in his left hand. Ubeis Ora Lachutz. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is halach of Kavod HaMikdash. Let me just see. I will.
No. Okay then.
Yeah, I just want to see. I want to see if we can just finish up the sugya. We're almost at the end. So again, let's go over. So Rav Sheshes had a suffix whether or not halacha b'yad small would passel the korban, and when he came to answer this question, he compared it to our Mishnah with regard to the machta, which is in the right hand, and the ketores is in the left hand. So he's carrying the ketores into the Kodesh Kodashim in his left hand. So now the Gemara wants to know why does he have to bother with this equation to Ketores? Why not quote a Mishnah that's explicit in Talmud with regard to the Karban Talmud, that when the Kohen, the one who, as we said before, won the pious of that day, when he's molech the Eivari Talmud up the ramp to the head of the Mizbech, he's got the Rosh and the Regel of the Talmud. And how does he divvy it up? The Regel is Biyad Small. Again, let's not be confused. When it says Regel Sheyimin, it means the right leg of the lamb, but he's holding it in his left hand. Okay, we'll come back to base oral lechutz. I just don't want to get it off the track here. But you see clearly that there's a halacha that's ksheir biyad small. Why does Rav Sheshes need to equate it with the Mishnah of Ketores? Let's talk about a korban, about the Talmud. And the Gemara answers, Imi Hasam, if Rav Sheshes would have quoted the halacha of halacha in the case of the Karban Talmud, which is Kshera Bismol, because he's holding on to the regel in his left hand, Hava Binahani Mili Bolacha Diloma Akfa Kapara. Beautiful. The Gemara is saying that there already was a Zrikas Adam. And if there already was a Zrikas Adam, now we're talking about halacha Aliyah Derech HaKevesh to the Rosh HaMizbech. I mean, even if there was no aktar at all, the karba would be mechaper, would be kosher. We're talking, Rav Shesh's original suffix was when he shechts the animal, after shechita, he's doing a halacha, and he hasn't even gotten to the point of zrikas adam yet. So you're still within the process of the Ikar Avodas Adam. And now he's doing a halacha with his left hand. And therefore, the analogy to Ketores is excellent because he hasn't yet done the Aktoras Aktoras, which is the main avodah. There's no Zrikas Adam in Ketores. Aval halacha de ma'akva, but in a case where the kapara depends upon the halacha, for example, halacha Adam, which is going to culminate in Zrikas Adam in order to achieve the kapara, then we would not be able to derive the conclusion that in such a case, in the halacha Adam after the Kabbalah Adam, before he does the Zrikas Adam, there would be a kosher a left-hand kosher. Of Mashmalan, therefore, Rav Sheshes quotes our Mishnah to prove his point. And the only thing that we skipped, that we didn't finish, is this base oral lachutz. He says, "Hamakom shemimena hufshat haor hayapone klape chutz." That's where they took off the hide, and they want to make sure that that's going towards the outside, it's facing the outside. Makom chituv shel haregel miguf habehema yemuchzak klape hakohen amolech umolchim es el hakevesh hamizbech. Okay, fine. So basically, what he's saying here is that the base aura, that's the part of the animal where he did the hafshata of the or, he took off the or, he flayed the or, so to speak. That has to be pone klape chutz. What is klape chutz? Makom chituch shel haregel miguf habehema, the place where he actually severed the leg of the animal. I don't know what he means by muchsa, but anyway, I guess it means it faces the Kohen who's carrying it. And he tells you to look in the diagram. All right, I'm looking at the diagram. Where's the base ora mibachutz? Oh, I see. Oh, it means like this. Ira, he's holding the regel of the carbon tamid in his left hand, and the point in which there is a chituv where he cut it off. That cutoff point is klape chutz, which I think I'm trying to find, but I don't see it right now. I think it has a din of kavod hamizbeach.
Right.
And this is the part that's kind of gory, where they cut the limb off.
Okay, shkoyach.
All right, shkoyach. We did a lot. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that was good. Okay, shkoyach.
Great.
All right.
Have a great week. Okay.